Hey everyone, this is our first pre-recorded discussion in laboratory, and in the final part we will be discussing more on the animal form and function, and with that we will be using Anuran's external anatomy for the first lesson in zoology laboratory. So what are Anurans? Anurans are amphibians, okay, and that includes the frogs and toads. They are widely used for dissections, okay. During your high school, you've used this specimen, and until now, it is being used for laboratory experiments, especially in studying zoology. So, this is an example of a bullfrog, which is Rana catesbiana, which is a member of Anura, okay, together with Caudata, salamanders and newts, and Gymnophiona, caecilians and apodans, form the class Amphibia. So amphibians are organisms or animals that can dwell both in land and water. So because they are amphibians, bullfrog, the North American bullfrog Rana catesbiana, is widely used for experimentations. So as with amphibians, generally Anurans tend to have a permeable scaleless skin. So they are kept moist by numerous mucous glands that allows for considerable cutaneous respiration. So these animals are performing cutaneous respiration because they are living underwater, and their skin technically should have a moistured texture so that and scaleless, so that the water could pass through their body, because they are performing cutaneous respiration most of the time. They are using, at the same time, aside from their nasal passages, they are using their skin for respiration. Frogs have highly specialized locomotor features that makes them instantly recognizable. So they have unique features, and most obvious perhaps are that the body is rigid, short, wide, and the hind limbs are long. So these are in familiarity, though not exclusively, these features of their bodies are used for jumping, and the tail is absent. So we will learn the external features of the frog. Okay, so you'll see it on your screen. We have here the external layers: the eye, tympanic membrane, brachium, the antebrachium, the manus. Okay, their digits, the manus or the hands. The pes have 5 digits. Unlike for humans, we have both 5 digits, okay, in your hands and your feet. We have the crus, the thigh, and the position of the sacral vertebra. So these are some of the external features of the frog. So we will learn what are these for. So for our learning outcomes this lesson, we examine Anuran or amphibian external anatomy, their body symmetry, senses, and physiology. So the toad is bilaterally symmetrical, toad or a frog. So technically in the laboratory we're using the toad. Okay, it's also a member of Anuran families. So the toad is bilaterally symmetrical. That is, if the animal is cut through the middle, okay, of its length, the part of the right half and the left half is similar. Okay, they're mirror images. For the purpose of description, the back of animal, and this is just a short review, the back of the animal is spoken of the dorsal, and underneath is the ventral surface. The part of the body which is foremost during locomotion is the anterior end, okay, anterior end here, and the rear is below is the posterior end. The part of the limb which lies nearest to the trunk is proximal, okay. Nearest to the trunk is the base of the body. I mean the foundation of the body, the core of the body, and the opposite is distal. Each side of the body are said to be lateral, and the structures in the middle of the body, okay, are said to be medial. So what are Anurans? Anurans are the most successful amphibians. They have 5,200 species and comprising 90% of all amphibians, according to Frost et al. 2006, and living on all continents except for Antarctica. The study of Amphibians and reptiles are what we call as herpetology. So in the Philippines, we have a lot of endemic frogs that is found in Palawan, some parts of Mindanao, and Visayas and Luzon Islands. So they have these animals are diversifying into numerous and markedly different ecological types. So they could be in dry and arid areas, or they love moist areas because their body needs water. Anurans generally have an aquatic tadpole or larval stage, and to undergo metamorphosis to produce the radically different adult form, but different reproductive strategies have evolved. So this is very related to the evolution of animals. So they started off in the ocean or in the water. Then when they started to grow their limbs, so people technically will identify anurans as the intermediate between the animals living in the water and the terrestrial animals. So, but that's not the case. Okay, these animals underwent metamorphosis, starting from eggs, hatching from eggs, and they become larvae in an adult form. So what are Anuran species? Okay, so we will know that some of the members of Pipidae, a group of specialized aquatic frogs, produce eggs that develop directly into juvenile frogs. So other pipids have an aquatic larvae or the tadpoles, but most of their members don't have tadpoles. Okay, they develop the eggs after hatching will develop the forelimbs and hindlimbs, unlike for some of the species of Anuran. But this Nectrophyreinoides, the Buffonidae, the true toads, are viviparous. Okay, and in Gastrotheca, Hylidae, the juvenile frogs develop directly in pouches on the female skin. So this is really quite interesting because this Hylidae, they develop directly in the pouches of the female skin. The same with kangaroos. Okay, these marsupials, these are mammals that are attaching their kid, okay, the kid or the offsprings into their pouches. So also in the species Rhinoderma darwini, okay, Rhinodermatidae, the tadpoles may complete their development in the vocal sacs of the male. So this is quite also interesting to know that there are some frogs that not just undergo metamorphosis, but at the same time they complete their development on the body parts of their parents. So for the Anuran species, jumping using the long hind limbs is the stereotype from locomotory behavior. Again, considerable specialization occurs in Anurans in this regard. For example, pipids are specialized aquatic frogs with webbed feet used for propulsion through water. So they're using their webbed feet. The same thing with ducks. Okay, if you try to see the feet of the duck, they have this webbed formation. Several clades like the Centrolinidae, Hylidae, Rhacophoridae include the arboreal frogs, which can move by quadrupedal walking, climbing, as well as by leaping. So these specialized several clades are climbing frogs. Okay, Hemisotidae include burrowing frogs that dig head foremost, a behavior reflected by their heavily ossified skulls. So their skulls must be ossified. Okay, a large content of calcium carbonate must be present on their skulls so that when they dig, they're using their heads or burrow, they are not being harmed by the rocks. Several terrestrial frogs tend to hop or walk rather than jump, such as Buffonidae, which tend to have heavy or robust bodies with relatively short legs. Okay. Well, other Anuran features of the frogs have very short and wide bodies and very large hind limbs and lack a tail. So we'll try to look at that one. The forelimb, including the brachium, antebrachium, and manus, is typical in form in proportions of that of other tetrapods. Tetrapods technically speaks of all the animals that has 4 limbs. In the hind limb, the thigh and crus are also typical, but the pes is extremely elongated. So this is the characteristic due to the marked modification of two proximal tarsals. So they have elongated tarsals so that when they swim, they can use their webbed feet to propel in the water. So this is a dorsal view of the skeleton of the frog. You can try to see the changes of these ossified version of your frog, and we will discuss that one in the next presentation. Okay, try to imagine that this is a frog. This is a real frog. Okay, there are 4 digits in the manus. See the manus. Going back, 1, 2, 3, 4. We have also 5 for the pes. Okay, so the 4 digits in the manus and the 5 has 5 digits, webbed in many swimming forms. The thumb hypertrophies in males during the breeding season to help the whole female during amplexus. Amplexus is the process where the male is copulating the female. Okay, so that's their breeding styles. Claws are absent as in amphibians generally. So these are different from reptiles, where reptiles have claws. Okay. So we will take a look at the skin. Okay, for external anatomy, as in many anurans, the skin is thin and highly glandular. These features are associated with considerable degree of respiration through the skin in most anurans. The mouth is very large, but otherwise normal. Okay, so that's the skin. The nares are rather small, located anteriorly and close together on the dorsal surface of the snout. So the dorsal surface is on the dorsal surface of the snout is located on this portion of the frog. Okay, the eyes are fairly large and project out from the top of the head, but in preserved specimens, they are often retracted and covered by the small eyelids. Okay, very special for anurans because they have no eyebrows, they don't have hairs, and there will be nothing to protect their eyes from any harm. Okay, from any dust. So a nictitating membrane is present. Okay, we'll discuss that one later. So these are just some of the features: the skin, the nares, and the eyes. Okay, so this is different from human body because when you say dorsal, that's the back, right? But for frogs, like I said earlier, the dorsal surface of the snout, that's the dorsal here, which is at the back. Okay, you can see the surface of the snout is located in here, the back also, and the belly and the other portions are called the ventral surface or ventral part. Each eye is provided with 3 eyelids. The first one is a thick and prominent upper eyelid. This one, the rudimentary lower eyelid, this one, and a transparent third eyelid. So we call that one nictitating membrane, which is attached below to the lower eyelid and can be stretched up to cover the eyeball. So they have no eyelashes, and the bulging eyes enable the animal to see all rounds. Okay, because they feed most of the time. They feed on insects. Okay, so they must be attentive and to capture the prey. The bulging eyes enable to see the animals in all rounds, and nictitating membrane protects the eyeball from dirt and other substances. Behind each eye, there is a circular patch of a tightly stretched grayish membrane. This is the eardrum or the tympanum for the purpose of hearing. So since frogs will be most of the time calling for their mates, okay, so they produce croaking sounds, and that varies. Okay, and so let's say the bullfrog, American bullfrog, so they have to manifest this kind of voice so that they could attract the females. So for the purpose of hearing, for the females, they must be able to select. Okay, they're somehow choosy of which is the most pleasing to the ears of these frogs. So the tympanic membrane and the nictitating membrane in the right lateral view. So try to see it in this photo. So posterior to each eye is the conspicuous and circular tympanic membrane, represents the ear externally. Okay, And actually, the membrane itself lies deep to the skin and may be separated from it. As noted earlier, the membrane is supported by the annular cartilage. So the membrane is being supported by a cartilage here, a connective tissue. Males are easily distinguished from females by the size of the tympanic membrane. In females, it's about the same size of the eye, whereas in the males, it's bigger than the eye. So this is the columella with tympanic membrane removed in right lateral view. Annular cartilage, auditory tubes, and tympanic membrane are presented in right lateral view. So there is no pinna of the ear in the toad. A little behind the eardrum is an elevated structure we call the parotid glands. Okay, and these extend behind into the trunk, and when the toad apprehends any danger, so they will release the glands when they are facing harm. This is a pungent, sticky juice for repelling the enemy. Okay, it is pungent. Parotid glands are therefore organs for defense and offense. The ventral surface of the head forms the floor of the oral cavity or the mouth cavity. Its rise and fall with breathing can be observed in a living specimen. So when you are in contact with a living specimen, you can really see that the mouth, okay, is moving up and down. The skin in this part of the body is loose in May. So you can feel it here on the toad in the ventral surface. In male toads, be inflated with a dark colored vocal sac, since the female don't have a vocal sac. So yeah, that's important features that we will take note of. And lastly, the cloaca is present posteriorly. However, due to the absence of tail, so it was lost during the larval stage, in the tadpole stage, it appears to be located somewhat dorsally. So you will feel the tail bone here. So how about the integument? Integument refers to our skin. So in order for us to understand the skin, we will try to make use or use the neurons as an example to study the skin. The skin is rough but moist. It does not bear scales for reptiles, feathers for birds, hairs or claws for mammals, and is therefore said to be naked. Toads are almost of the same color as the earth. So they have generally brownish, grayish, black, green. So they are camouflaging the environment. And the dorsal surface of the animal is grayish black. The ventral surface is yellowish gray. Here, the belly. And thus, very difficult to locate when not moving. Yeah. They generally camouflage the dry leaves in the forest and water at the same time. Toads have the power of changing the color of their skin so that they may match with the background and thus become invisible to the enemy. So we call this one phenomenon as protective coloration. The tree frog hyla is better than toad in this respect and can change its color effectively and very quickly. So these animals or frogs have specialized skin to protect themselves from enemy. The skin forms a cover for the entire body. It protects the underlying soft parts from injury and diseases. Okay. It also serves as an additional respiratory organ by absorbing oxygen and at the same time giving out the carbon dioxide. Toads never drink water. They freely absorb water by their skin. That's a fact. So what are these amphibian glands and skin structures? So they have epidermal glands. A lot of them have mucus, and granular glands occur in the post-metamorphic. So this happens like in juvenile and adult. Okay, post-metamorphic juvenile and adult amphibians and are numerous and widespread on the head, body, and limbs. Okay, this is an amphibian skin. In this figure, you'll see a cross-section through the ventral skin of a marine toad, Rivnella bufomarina, and in the abbreviations will tell you that the MG is a mucous gland, a PG is a poison or granular gland, and SC is for stratum compactum, stratum germinativum, and stratum spongiosum. So these layers of the skin will directly tell you that the epidermis is the uppermost part or the topmost part of the skin of an amphibian. And the next with that will be the dermis, and the dermis is composed of two different levels: the spongiosum, because it resembles like a sponge, and the compactum, because these are made up of compact cells and connective tissues. Okay. The frog skin is also containing a variety of pigments that often result in a bizarre, intricate patterns, such as this Amazonian Cretophorices cornuta. Okay, so they have adapted in their skin, which they have a lot of pigments that will camouflage themselves from the predators. And the arrangement of chromatophores in amphibian skin. So chromatophores are colored pigments. Okay, they can be called as the dermal chromatophore unit. Okay, this unit is consisting of xanthophores, which gives yellow, orange, or red coloration, the iridophores, which reflect the light and causes bright colors, and the frogs are widely exhibiting that coloration, and basal melanophores, which have a dendritic processes that extend between the xanthophores and the iridophores. So these are also the colors that are found in your amphibian skin. So for mammals, we have only one type of cell that gives us the color, which is the melanocytes. Okay. And it varies from people in anywhere else in the world. So if you have any more questions, don't forget to ask a question, and we will be talking more of that in our chat room in the virtual classroom. Thank you so much for listening, and goodbye.